When it comes to the hormonal effects, it is really something we should be studying, and I'll tell you a bit about what my experience with that was talking to patients about this. We know that in other diseases, throughout the menstrual cycle, there are fluctuations. So if you are a premenopausal woman, a woman who still has menstruations, if you have diabetes or if you have asthma, for example, the moment where these diseases are the worst, where you're much more likely to have to go to the emergency room, for example, is right before menstruation. So we know that there's periods during the cycle where the symptoms are more controlled, and there's periods where it is more difficult to control the symptoms. And we have no information about this in Parkinson's, but I told this to people who were attending the Parkinson Net Congress 2 years ago, and I talked about these fluctuations. And interestingly enough, in 2 out of the 3 cases where I talked about this, patients walked up to me after the talk and told me, well, this is exactly what I'm experiencing. So right before menstruation is the moment where I have the impression that my symptoms get worse, that it's more difficult to control them, and so forth. It might make sense, biologically it makes sense. We have no data about this, but it is really something we should be investigating, because it is well possible to say, okay, maybe in those 3 to 5 days right before your menses, you want to either adapt the therapy, that's one option, but even if you don't do that, already knowing there's these 3 to 5 days where maybe your symptoms are more strong, where you feel more weak, where you have more difficulties maybe coping with some things, maybe you have to place an appointment, you decide to do it a few days later, a few days before. Maybe you take things slower in those days. Just knowing, and knowing also that after 3-5 days, you'll go back to your baseline and you feel more, better control of your symptoms again. So already just knowing that there might be this fluctuation is something that can be quite helpful. So this is really something we ought to be looking into, especially because it is something that has an impact on quality of life.